Michael Flynn, by the way, principal, if you don't know me yet. I've never had to care about 7th grade before. I've only been the 8th grade assistant principal for the last 4 years. And now that I'm in my new role, as the years progressed, I've had more 7th grade meetings this year than any other grade level there is in the building. So we really started to evaluate the reasons behind that. What are some things that are occurring? And what we kept coming back to is maybe we try a transitional night just so that we're able to communicate some of the things that we see throughout the year in our meetings and in our classrooms. So that's why we're going to record it. So for anyone that's not here, we're going to put it out there. We're going to email it to everybody. And then also this presentation behind me, we'll send it out in a PDF for everyone. So don't feel like you need to be running down and taking notes. We're going to communicate it out as we move forward. So as we put this together, we did it through the guidance team over here with Amanda. Come on in and have a seat anywhere. Amanda, Zach, and Pat. And most of you know Miss Fanning, right? That's who you've worked with this year in 6th grade. And she'll continue, which is one of the benefits here at the middle school, is your counselor follows you throughout the 3 years. But as we were sitting down and going over, you'll see some slides here as we go through. And we kind of just wanted to highlight the differences between when you're starting 6th grade and when you're starting 7th grade. It's something that I continue to talk about, that there's a huge difference between first day in 7th grade than there was the first day in 6th grade. You know, our 6th grade transition, we cared about them getting on the bus and them getting off and finding where do I sit in the morning and who are these new students that I've never met before in the 4 towns. How do I open my locker? How do I get to gym? All that stuff happens within the first couple weeks of school. And as we go through this presentation, you're going to see that in 7th grade, the first day you might have homework, all right, which could be mind-blowing sometimes. And that homework will be due in 2 days. And if you don't do it in 2 days, there's going to be an accountability piece. So that's kind of why this transition night came out. We do a lot of work from 5 to 6. You know, the 6th graders are coming in after you, those parents who are nervous about, you know, do you change in gym and all that stuff. So all those questions have kind of come and gone, but we want to give you an idea of what we see in 7th grade. And hopefully that, I'll open it up at the end, that there's relevant information that you gather. But I am the one-man band tonight. I'm not going to ask anyone to present because this was new. But we have teachers here in case I don't know the answers. Then I'll just pull them up and make them talk. So just be prepared over there. So first week is really it's a big difference. You're getting right into school. There's really no, not to say there's no kumbaya moments, but it's more, you know where you're getting off the bus. They know where to go immediately. They know how to get to their homeroom. They know that classes are going to be in block schedule. They know that it's an A and a B day. All that stuff that we transitioned them in from 5th to 6th has kind of gone by the wayside. So I'm not going to read bullet points because everyone knows how to read. But they're going to be acclimating more to their team expectations rather than the school and themselves. So they're going to go to homeroom, and then they may have Mrs. Costa, first period on A day, which is a core class, that they're going to get right into science that day. She's going to be talking about lab rules. She's going to be talking about classroom expectations. She's probably going to give an assignment out for that day that will be in 2 days. In regards to lab safety. You know, that's the first core class where, you know, coming into 6th grade, they wouldn't even have gone to a core class until halfway through the first day because they would have been walking the halls, they would have been checking their lockers, you know, all the stuff that we just want to get them comfortable in the school. The other thing that you're going to have to understand is the shift in thinking in the educational process. So as you'll see here, shift from concrete, literal to abstract and integrated. So there's going to be a lot of questions that it isn't going to be a direct answer. Our teachers are going to push them and challenge their thought process, and they're going to have to elaborate, and there isn't an A or B or black and white, that they're going to have to learn to live a little bit in the gray world, which is what we do all the time. It is a big change, K through 6, and then 7th grade, the way that you're running into the curriculum and what you're doing. Excuse me. When it says students will be expected to know how, it's not like we're sending them out and good luck. We're just telling you that they figured it out by now. When they're leaving 6th grade, if I say where the music room is, it is no longer do I have to draw them a map and have them walk halfway down the hall and hope they get the rest of the way. When they're coming in 7th grade, we typically find that stuff is not really an issue at all. When it says limited review of structure and routine, that again is that initial transfer from 6th grade. They're not going to be walking them through where the classroom is. Ms. Costa is going to dismiss them and expect that they know how to get to Mrs. Litrodello's room without having to go in that path. These are just some things. This is, again, there's a huge difference between, oh, thanks, buddy. All right. So one of the biggest meetings, or most meetings that occur throughout the first trimester of 7th grade is the shift in, I want to use the word rigor and speed and accountability. And you'll see that from the level of knowledge that they're going to have to know. Not to be petty, but we're not doing addition and subtraction anymore. We're now moving into that higher level math stuff. So things that you'll see is increased work every night. That's a fact. Did we put it? We did. We said roughly about 30 minutes per subject. So now, even though we're on a block day and I think we've got a good grasp of math and science on one day and social studies and language arts on another day, but now you're going to have a world language. You may have a world language that's involved. You're also going to see higher level thinking within the technology classes or within art class. You could possibly see homework in that class. You know, you only get so much time with them on the day, so most of the work that we're doing is integrated into what's going to be coming into the classroom the next day. And that's very important in 7th and 8th grade. If you're not spending the time doing what some of the work is at home, then we have a harder time when they come into class continuing on where we need to be. And, you know, we can go into the bigger level of discussion of homework and value, and is it a waste of time, is it not a waste of time? These kids have all this stuff going on at home, but it is important to us, and it's not busy work. And I know that, you know, that can be difficult sometimes because it may feel that way, but what I have told my staff is it should not be busy work. It should be connected to what's going to be going on the following time when you come in class. And that's really what we're trying to do. The deadlines is a lot different. And I'm kind of smiling and laughing because I just sent out an email to my team about a deadline tomorrow. And it's not a soft deadline. And from 6th grade to 7th grade, that expectation of, all right, it's due in 2 days, it's due in 2 days. It's not due in 2 days, but we'll allow time during class to do it, or it's due in 2 days, and you can do it during opportunity block, that if Ms. Kelker assigns a writing piece, that you're going to go home and complete the writing piece and have it submitted online prior to class, it's due prior to class. It's challenging, and we're talking about time management, and you are talking about students that have gymnastics, soccer, hockey, lacrosse, I can go on, band, outside of class and outside of school. But it's important that these deadlines are met so that we're able to meet our deadlines within 7th grade language arts. And the organization is another piece that we're really starting to see in 7th grade. Because 6th grade is, to be really honest, is an elementary model. That's how it's developed. So you have Mrs. Gagnon, who sits in class and does color-coded folders and helps them get organized. Not that 7th grade teachers don't, but there's a level of expectation as we're getting older here that you need to create those folders. You need to be organized when you come into class. You need to have your online classroom set up and logged in and punch the code in and email teachers back and forth. There is that level. And I don't have to say, the parents that invest in that time and help their students get organized allows them to be more successful in the classroom. That's a reality. It's teaching them the study skills. It's setting aside the time at night to sit down and have them do whatever may or may not be expected that evening. It's checking in when they get home, you know, what happened today in class, and we're going to talk about that in a minute because I bet you 90% of the time you hear nothing. Because I ask my daughter Grace every day, what'd you learn? She always says nothing. And I'm like, well, this is a waste of our time. Why are you going to school? But that's the reality, is we're going to start driving some discussions. And, you know, a lot of parents do that, but it's important as we get older, and then I can speak more specifically to 8th grade as you're transitioning to the high school. 7th grade is the key year. That's what we kept coming back to. It is the year, and as we get into the next slide, you're going to see it's the year of a lot. And it's important that you set that time at home to help support them. Thanks, Steve. Okay. So you're going to hear a lot of words that come from our 7th grade teams that may be a little bit different, and we thought of how do we say this appropriately. But students will be expected to be, you know, more responsible for their learning. And just to share some examples that, you know, if If a teacher says I'm available after school every Tuesday and Thursday, that means they're available every Tuesday and Thursday. That doesn't mean that they're going to reach out to you and say, hey, you need to come Tuesday or Thursday. There has to be some connection between the students and the teachers, that they take responsibility and say, oh, she's here every Tuesday, Thursday, all right, I'll schedule it, I'll drop by, I'll see her, and go from there. I'm starting to see a trend of they're looking for the answers to be handed to them. And don't take that the wrong way, but they have to be able to drive that discussion with their teachers. I have daily conversations with students about how you're not going to like every teacher you have. And you know, this year you have 6 or 7, but then in the high school, you're going to have 4 on one day, 4 on another day, you're going to have 8 one year, you're going to have 8 the next year. That relationship piece between students and teachers, I think this is a big year in 7th grade. It's not that our teachers don't do it, and I want that message to be clear. They do say, hey, I really think you should stay next week. But I always say you can take the horse to water, you can't make him drink. So, I can remind the student over and over and over, they need to access me, access the education, access the time that our teachers are putting in after hours. But if they don't go, when I'm having these meetings, I don't know what else to tell you. We see a lot of success with our students that take that extra leap and take that extra minute or extra hour, whatever it may be. We offer late bus every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You'd be amazed at how many parents that I've talked to this year that weren't even aware of that in 7th grade, that we offer late buses 3 days a week. So we want to drive that discussion of the student and teacher relationship. Opportunity Block has been a huge, huge, huge success for us this year. This was something we implemented this year for the first time. The key is when you move to Opportunity Block in 6th grade is used to help students do organizational stuff, do relearns, and not that it's not like that in 7th grade, it's just there's less time. Opportunity Block in 7th grade is driven towards some other things, and then in 8th grade it's driven towards other things as well. I don't want anyone to sit here and panic, that's not the message. I'm just saying as we're getting older here in 7th and 8th grade, the schedule becomes a little bit tighter, it becomes a little bit more that they have to achieve, there's a little bit more going on. We have world language that comes into play in 7th grade, and some of the Opportunity Block is RTI and world language in those areas. So don't always rely on, all right, if I can't do it tonight, I'll do it during Opportunity Block tomorrow, because that doesn't work out. There's a lot of times that something will come up on team and they have a team meeting and then the Opportunity Block's gone. So back to the time management piece, communicating with teachers. The Power School. The Power School. The Power School. And I'm not going to quiz everyone and say, raise your hand if you know what that is. But the district's making a push, and I think, anyone have 5th grade students in here by chance? Do they have access to Power School this year? I think Ken was working on that. They do. They do? Okay. I know Ken Henderson, we've been trying to drive Power School down into the elementary school and making parents aware of it and students aware of it. And it's kind of amazing sometimes because all of our report cards are on Power School now, right? We don't mail anything home unless you're on the hard mail list, but I can see it, and most people can see if a parent has checked Power School. And I can see if a parent hasn't checked Power School since September or October, and then you can check when the student checks Power School. Power School is a very powerful tool for us because it's a live communication piece. It's updated. Our teachers have to update grades every 2 weeks. That's a directive from me. Our report cards go home there. Any messages that, what's that? I don't, what's the middle of the term? Someone help me. Thank you. Progress report for 100. Progress report comments are in Power School. It's a very important tool. And we're working with our students because they need to own their grades, right? Own their grades, and working with parents to use it as a tool. And my wife still doesn't even know what it is. And it's a big shift in education. It's been around for a while, but it's becoming more powerful. And I like that there's a parent account and a student account because you can meet with students and say, hey, when's the last time you logged on to check the grade? When's the last time that you're missing that assignment? When's the last time you talked to the teacher about that missing assignment? Again, it's driving that communication piece for students to understand the ownership of something that's missing, maybe unaccounted for, whatever it may be. it can certainly help bridge that gap between success and unsuccess. Unsuccess, is that a word? Anybody? I just make that up? All right. Students are encouraged to follow up with staff, the absence. Believe it or not, I was just at a district meeting today, our absences are down by almost 15%. And I don't know if it's related to the block or not, but we've seen, I'm gonna talk about stress in a minute, we saw a lot of stresses last year about if you missed a day, how you had to make up 8 classes and now you only have to make up 4. But in regards to the makeup, especially in 7th grade, don't assume the teacher's gonna approach you. Again, you're changing the mentality of elementary model, K through 6, that if you were absent, that there's an ability to go in and say, hey, I know you were absent, why don't you go around? There's a more ownership switch to the students, that if you're absent, that you say, Mrs. Schmidt, I was out today, can I go around and see my team teachers in advisory, or can I go around during an opportunity block? What I really like to see, and it came up, I think it was Friday, I'd like to see students start emailing the day they are absent and get ahead of time through the classroom and say, hey, Mrs. Schmidt, I'm out today, anything I can do? And of course, if that's your class day, especially if it's an A day and you have Mrs. Schmidt, she's gonna post what she's posting for everyone else. Or if they self-advocate and they email out, I guarantee sometime during the day, she's gonna say, don't worry about it till you come in tomorrow, I'll follow up with you, or here's what you can do prior to coming into class tomorrow. I know they're still babies. They're in 7th grade. They're still babies in my eyes, but we're also moving towards what education is going to be and what life is going to be. I mean, I was out on Friday taking care of my family, but I worked all day. I answered anything that came in. It's part of it. Not that if you're homesick and you can't function, I get it, but these are some of the things that we're really trying to work on. Okay, the resiliency is kind of what we've been talking about. You're going to see all new challenges. You're going to see students. I'm telling you, your students may have had straight A's K through 6, and they're going to experience their first B in their life. They're going to experience their first C in their life. They might experience their first failure in their life. That's the reality of what we're challenging them with in 7th grade. It doesn't mean that they're not, by the end of the trimester, that they won't succeed at what's going on. It goes back to that relationship piece. But they have so much going on in 7th grade with their physical changes, with their the puberty changes, with all literally the chemicals that are going on in their brain are changing, yet you're starting to see new social patterns. Right? This is where my mind was blown this year. Because in 8th grade, it's a different pattern. They've gone through all that shift. They've gone through, 90% of them have gone through the puberty piece. So in 8th grade, it was more about, all right, I found my friends, and then some start to go, but in 7th grade, it's all those past. They're going 700 different ways, 6 new groups of friends. I don't like you anymore. I like you today. The stuff that Amanda would tell me this year, I couldn't even wrap my brain around. And then on top of that, I'm struggling academically. My parents are saying that I'm not, it's just a whirlwind. I call it the perfect storm. And it's okay. It's our job, and what we're trying to work with them on is saying, okay, you don't like Amy today? Fine. Don't worry about Amy. Let's worry about social studies, all right? Oh, you hate social studies today? Okay. Don't worry about it. Let's work on science today. And they're laughing so hard because those are the conversations we're having. I am fearful of when my daughter becomes a 7th grader because it's night and day every day. Every day it's something different. And what we're starting to see is we'll get emails from parents. Hey, Mr. Flynn, this occurred, can you help me? And I'll say, well, have your student come see me. Have them come and talk to me. Well, Mrs. Kelker was really mean today. She may have been, I don't know that, but have your student come talk to me. I need to be, and this is the honest to God truth, I need to be able to hear from the student. I do, because what they tell their parents is not what they tell me. And that's the honest to God truth. And I learned this very early through my mom. My mom said to me, your kids are going to disappoint you. There's no doubt about it. You disappointed me, thanks Mom, and your kids will disappoint you. And it's called survival mode, and I mean that. Because when your mom's asking you, well, did you do this and did you do that? That kid is going to say whatever mom and dad want to hear or whatever is going to help them survive at home, okay? And it's different when they come in and talk to me because I have nothing to do with grounding. I have nothing to do with whether the food goes on the table that night. I have nothing to do whether they take their device away or not. I'm trying to find out how to make my school a better place. And if Mrs. Kelker was mean, I need to fix that. But I need to hear it through their mouths, and I need to hear their version of the events. Because I'm not saying that it's always different. I'm saying it tends to be different. And I have to talk to Ms. Kelker, and I need to get her version of the events. Those are some of my most difficult conversations I have with parents is, I'm sorry, Mrs. Smith, but your son isn't telling you the truth. I got a different version, or however that may occur. And I really believe that it starts with problem solving. And that's what I've been talking about, is driving that discussion back, allowing us to help you. Believe me, every one of us want to be the good guy. We do. We never want to be the bad guy. We never want the emails to come to me from a teacher. None of them want that. None of them want me to knock on the door and be like, hey, I got an email today. Can you help me out? And it's that relationship piece between the school and the home. And that's what we're trying to improve upon. I am a problem solver. That's what I do. I don't like things going unresolved. I don't like parents feeling unsupported. I don't like parents feeling like they don't have a voice in there. That's what we're trying to work on here. And I really believe that it starts in 7th grade, the more and more I've dived into what's going on. So the building the confidence, that's a big piece because they're going to go through a lot of trials and tribulations in 7th grade. Someone's going to break up with them. Someone might not ask them out on the weekend. They're going to get a friend group that's going to say something about them. They're going to fail a test. They're going to not be prepared for one because they had something going on in their social life for the first time. You're going to see a lot of these things, and they're going to come home, and it's up to us as a relationship to help support them and build their confidence. Some of our best relationships we have with parents is they'll say, hey, Erica, you know, Matt came home tonight, said he had this going on, couldn't really focus on science, just wanted to give you a heads up. That gives us a better picture when Matt walks through the door the next day. That gives us an idea of why he might not have said a word for the first time all year. It's important, that communication piece back and forth. I'm not saying we're ever not at fault, believe me. There's no way that that's possible. I have 107 staff members and 800 students every day. There's always someone not getting along, always. Every single day, there's someone not getting along, and that's the truth. It's a big business that we run. That's what it is. And the more we know about our product that's coming in the door helps us do a better job. All right, Dean, I'm ready. All right, so this is the big discussion. You know, how much should happen outside, how much should happen inside? Our students, your children, are doing more than any of them ever have, or any of our generation ever has. That's the truth. I mean, maybe you had a middle school sport, a couple sports, but, and again, I know I share my experiences, but my daughter, who's going to be a 3rd grader, has 20 hours in a gymnastics gym every week. That's insane to me. I think that's too much, and I fight with my wife about it all the time. I always lose. Things that happen. But that's what it is. She loves gym, so she's going to go to gym. But all of your students have a lot going on in their life. Maybe it's gym, maybe it's hockey, maybe it's lacrosse, softball, field hockey, whatever it may be. But it is up to us to understand, and being a former student, believe it or not, you are a student athlete forever. You will never be called an athlete student, all right? Even if you have those aspirations of scholarships and all of that fun stuff, no one ever comes to your doorstep as a former recruiter and says, hey, you're a really good athlete, I'd like you to come to my school. It's, do you have the grades and the academics to meet the athletic piece? And that's the truth. You know, these stories that you hear of all these people getting these scholarships and they don't know their alphabet, that's not the reality. The reality is if you don't have your academics, then the other things that come along with that will never, ever, ever happen. So it's important to balance. You know, homework and studying is, on parents, it's taxing. It's a battle every night for me at home. I'm sure it's a battle for you guys every night at home. But it's important to establish at least the groundwork and the framework for these students to understand that if they don't do some of the expectations that are needed to come into school the next day, that they're going to struggle. Prioritizing. That's something that you're going to learn in 7th grade. Some of our students have figured it out, and when I say figure it out is, all right, if I have to type a paper that's for homework, it's actually not due for 2 days. So they've learned to balance that. And a lot of our 8th grade students have taught us some stuff this year about apps. There's block scheduling apps, believe it or not, that help you prioritize, and it sends you reminders when stuff is due. You know, the app-driven world can certainly help some of your organizational stuff. Look out every day for 7th grade stresses as it becomes more. As the year progresses, you're going to see the math increase, you're going to see the writing increase, you're going to see the science labs increase, you're going to see the world languages stuff increase, because as we get to the halfway point, about the 90-day mark, right around January, they're building stuff for 8th grade. And then in 8th grade, you're going to see them building it for freshmen. I mean, that's where we are. So as those stressors become apparent, allow them to build that confidence. Say, all right, what do you need to do tonight? Is that due tomorrow? Being more aware of what your students are doing can certainly help not only at home, but it can help your student. In the communication piece, emailing the team, emailing Miss Fanning. I mean, Miss Fanning, our guidance department is phenomenal. If you reach out to them, if they don't have it solved by the next morning within 3 hours, look at all the pressure I'm putting on them now, then they're doing something wrong. But they do a phenomenal job, so make sure you're communicating with them. I think next one is going to be... So the attendance piece is on here because our attendance has improved, but it's also my point to talk about, I can go into the data that says if you miss 10% of your school year, right? So we have 180 days. If you're missing upwards of 18 days, you're losing significant face-to-face instruction, all right? So it's important that the more you're here, the better it is. That's a fact. The more support you have, the less questions and confusion that may occur. Those are all facts that lower stress. Missing days, I'm not talking about sickness and flu, because we had a horrible year this year with all that stuff going through. But the fact is, the more they're here, the better we have as a support team to wrap our arms around them and understand what's going on. The makeup piece, again, I want to mention, as I'm trying to improve on this, that our teachers, I've worked in a couple districts, our teachers stay more than any district I've ever been a part of. And I don't know what's wrong with them sometimes. I have to kick them out before I even leave. They are here. And if you're out and you say, hey, I was out Tuesday, are you around Thursday? Absolutely, come by. They'll do one-on-one instruction. There's no question about it. I can't name one teacher here that says I am never available after school. And I really mean that. That's not fake news. You gonna help me out? Thanks, Steve. All right. Here we go. These next two slides make me nervous. Social development. 7th grade is socially challenging. No doubt about it. It's probably the most challenging year from what I've finally watched. It's more challenging than 8th grade, and that's genuine. I believe in 8th grade they've reached a maturity level of which they can process friendships a lot better than 7th graders can. I want to say 6th grade, you guys are all buddies, everyone's a buddy, everyone's a girlfriend, everyone's my BFF, all those terms. And then in 7th grade, you start to see the division of relationships and friendships and packs and cliques and boy groups and boys hanging out with girls and girls hanging out with boys. It is mass dysfunction every day in that area. And it's because they don't know what they want. They don't. They can't make a decision. They rely on their friends to make decisions. They rely on their parents to make decisions. They rely on their older brothers and sisters if they've made those decisions. Any of you that have lived 7th grade understand kind of what I'm talking about. For those of 7th grade, your first one, it's just a new animal. So new friends, drift away from old friends, try out new identities. You're getting 4 different the 4 towns have finally combined, and they're starting to realize that they have more in common with someone that they never knew for their first 5 years of school. And then in 6th grade, everyone loves each other. I mean that. I feel like there's the least peer conflict in 6th grade, and then in 7th grade, it starts to go the opposite way. The drama that we put in quotation marks there, it's self-provoked drama. The majority of the time, they're all involved in it. I mean, even today, we had something that went on in 7th grade, and at the end of the day, every one of them were actually the problem. And they don't realize it. They don't realize that that one more text message, or that one more Snapchat, or that one more Instagram post, or that one more Facebook post. What else am I missing? Is there another one out there? Twitter, yeah, the one more tweet. They don't realize what they're doing because, they still don't know it. I'll get into that in a second, though. So when they say don't be surprised if your student tells you nothing about the day, that's also them changing. It's up to us to drive those discussions. All right, you didn't learn anything today. Can you just tell me like some type of conversation you may have had with a peer or with a teacher or with the lunch lady? Sally talks to everyone on the planet. Just tell me something about your day. How is your stress? Are you concerned about academics? Is there someone in your friendship circle that's changing and you don't like what they're doing? There are going to be kids in 7th grade that start to make those decisions on experimenting with things. We've seen a big trend in vaping. That's the reality that we're living in, and that's a trend that we have now had to catch on to really quick about what's going on. These are the discussions that you need to be driving and having, and I'm not trying to parent the parent, I'm just telling you what we deal with on a daily basis when it walks through. My favorite line now to Carol and Amanda in 7th grade, I go, what happens in the summer in 7th grade? Like, who do they go talk to? And I mean that, like, where do all these things go? Who monitors them if we're the ones that are receiving the information for 9 months out of the year? Just continue to drive that discussion with them to help them and have them feel supported and to build that confidence. Don't hesitate to reach out to Ms. Fanning. That's who it'll be next year. If Ms. Fanning gets a piece of information, she's always good at being on your doorstep in the morning. So when I walk in the door and Ms. Fanning's there, I'm like, okay, here we go. But she's a great piece. If it's not a her thing, she'll go to the right person and make it a them thing. So whether it be me or Miss Maroka or a teacher specific or one of our other counselors who may be using them for access, that's her role as a counselor, is to direct the people in the right way to do their job. So basically, you're the boss. Okay. All right. Social media. All right. The piece, that line it can't be more perfect. It is a powerful piece in your 7th grader's life. I am not saying they should not, please don't, I'm going to be quoted because it's going to be sent out. I'm not saying they should not have access at all. That's not my life, it's not my house, it's not my child. Everyone can have their own arguments on social media. Everyone has their own beliefs. But I'm telling you as a parent, you should be monitoring it. And I mean that. There is no reason a 7th grader should have free reign without monitoring of a parent. And there's plenty of apps out there that you can download and receive and send every text message they get. You can monitor every Snapchat they send. There's all those ghost apps out there that help you monitor that information. We see so much go on social media, I can't even get into it. And it's because no one is watching. It's hard to even compare it to our generation and what existed at the time. I mean, what was our stuff? We had our own lines maybe in our room, and we got secret phone calls, and I mean that, or instant messenger maybe existed at that time, but that was on a computer. We didn't have it in our hand whenever we needed it. Passing notes, that's how messages got back and forth. And if a teacher got a note, oh my God, my life is over, can't you believe what she had to read in it? I mean that because they're more savvy than we are. And I think I'm good at it. And my last investigation, I learned something that totally existed that it was an 8th grade thing, and I looked at Mitch and I'm like, we're in trouble, man. Like, we do a good job. And I say that as an administrative team, it comes up in our weekly meetings. All right, did you learn anything new this week? Did you learn anything? We're trying to stay ahead of this curve. It was the new one was a fake calculator. So on their phone, it looks like a calculator, but when you click on the calculator, it's actually hidden pictures that don't go into the picture folder of the iPhone. So it was a brand new app. So these kids have all these secret pictures under a calculator. And I was like, man, we have no chance if this is what we're fighting against. But they're more savvy than us. And then the amount of interactions they have, it's mind-boggling. And it's absolutely, I was watching Boy Meets World, that was my generation. Anybody out there know Boy Meets World? So they created Girl Meets World. Do you guys know that? All right. So my daughter's into that, and she just held up her phone and she's like, well, Dad, I have 363 friends. And he's like, you don't have that many friends. But they do, and they believe that they have those friends. And they believe that sharing that picture out is only going to go to the person they're sending it. They're not then thinking, oh, well, then Mike's going to send it to his 53 friends, and then Johnny's going to send it to his 72 friends. They don't grasp, and we do it in our classes and we teach it in our technology classes, but they don't grasp the reach that this stuff can have. I had a conversation with some students, a really good conversation with some 8th grade students about how what you say now can come back to haunt you when you're getting a job. And I mean that. My niece, who's a senior at Duquesne in Pittsburgh, I said, you want to be a teacher? The first thing I do when I get an application is I Google the name. First thing I do. And if any of those pictures come up, I'm not interviewing them. So the stuff that they're doing now is challenging because you want to allow them to grow. You want to allow them their freedom. You want to trust them. I get it. I'm not trying to parent the parent, but what we see and what causes that drama or what causes that stress level or what causes the interactions outside of school. I mean, if I had to tell a kid I didn't like him, I'd have to say it to his face back in the day. Or if I liked a girl, I would have to say, hey, do you want to go out? Like crazy. But now they send these messages off without any type of interaction or social, emotional type of look from the person that's receiving the message. So it's important for parents and guardians to monitor that stuff. I'm going to sound like my dad here. I haven't seen too much good come from social media in our environment. It should be used for online study sessions rather than having to be at the house. It should be used for FaceTime studying or working with a partner on homework. It should be used for classroom setups and studying materials. It's just not what we're seeing it for. So this is a piece that we wanted to speak to whoever showed up tonight, that it is a problem. And we're trying our darndest every day to help work those students through those progressions of think before you send, what's the value in this, all those types of things. But we also need that support from home. All right, Dean. Thanks, buddy. I think that was it. Yeah. So it's been a different year for myself, and I've learned a lot about 7th grade. I think it's also the most exciting year for our students because they're coming into their own. They're figuring out what they are, what they're good at, who they want to hang out with. They're building those relationships. And it's just important that we're there to support them at home and in school, and having that communication piece open is very important. We've built a lot into the schedule with that support. We've seen some great data this year on our student-teacher relationships and how it's strengthened because of those deeper conversations that we can have. But it's important for it to be a partnership, and I'm going to continue to say that because without home, it's very challenging at school. And without school, it can be challenging at home. So it's a two-way street for sure. I'm going to open it up to questions. Did I do all right, teachers? I didn't miss anything. Okay, great. I'm nervous. I'll open it up to questions. And again, I know 7th grade's different. This is brand new for us. So once you get home tonight, if you thought that we could have done something better or said something different, please email me. This is the first time we've ever done a 7th grade transition night. It was kind of put together in a short time because I said, why don't we try this? Let's do it on 6th grade night, see who shows up, and we'll go from there. So thanks to Pat and the guidance team for helping me with that. And 7th grade teachers, thanks for showing up. I appreciate that as well. But any questions? Yeah?
So my daughter came home today. I was a little bit late, but the laptops.
Yep.
Chromebooks.
Sure.
She said they're allowed to keep them through the summer,
Yep.
and then you'll email us.
Sure. So I have to repeat the questions because Dean told me that. The question was, the Chromebooks, what are we going to do with them and how are we going to process them? And actually, we just received notification last week that yes, the current 6th grade students will be taking them home for the summer and then bringing them back. What was the second piece you said?
How will you let us know that we're to bring them back?
No, they get them the whole summer and they bring them back at school.
They don't, she said something about an update. You guys would have.
Oh, I'll have to ask Lois. That'll go out. Any of that information will come out in an email for sure. All right. Any other questions about 7th grade? Come on, give me something. Challenge me. Yeah.
So, as parents, we're being asked, and of course we would, give our students a time to study and a
Yeah.
place to study. Is there going to be a consistent place and time by which assignments will be posted so that
Yep.
it works into,
Absolutely.
students' study time? It's been our experience that it's been a little bit inconsistent this year, and so
Absolutely.
it's hard to
Yep.
get it
So-
done during our allotted time
Yep.
if it's not there.
The question is there going to be a consistent place and spot for information to be posted so that parents are able to help support their students at home? Is that fair? Okay. And I agree with you on the inconsistency. As we're shifting to Google Classroom, which started about 2 years ago, we're asking more of our teachers to post in a timely fashion, I think is important, and then up-to-date stuff. So 2 answers. Yes, we need to improve, but 2, we're going to improve. That it should be, we're trying to decide on expectations, and I don't want to say it yet, but we're trying to set new timelines on what is fair of the teacher, because they have 100 kids a day, and they have what's going on in the classrooms, and then what is a fair time to have that posted. We're also learning, I'm going to be honest, I think 6th grade teachers next year are going to be better prepared than they were this year with the one-to-one, because we hadn't lived it before. Now we've also talked to them about what we need to do for next year because that device is right there. So before it would be a different means of communication. But yes, there will be a fair expectation of teachers to post in a timely fashion, and it should all be on Google Classroom next year. All of it. Is that fair, teachers? No. And if it's not, email me. Because then I get to show up on their doorstep. All right. Okay, so I can't thank you enough for showing up for the first ever 7th grade transition night. Hopefully you got some information out of it, and if you want to reach out to me at any point afterwards, I certainly accept that. So thanks again, guys. Have a good night. All right.